topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I used to have a morning drive show in Miami. Had it for 4 years, and it became one of the top talk shows, morning talk shows, which I was so proud of. And we did a lot of politics. Well, we're really close to an election, and I am going to be probably the next 2 to 3 weeks talking politics with you. And some of you will like it, some of you will hate it. One of the things you have to be careful of is when you send me an email, you never know, it might be read over the air. I'm not going to mention any names at all, but I always wonder, because as you can tell, I'm wearing my Trump hat, and I always wonder how, especially now, somebody could ever vote for Harris. And the email that I got really explains it. And I've told a lot of my family members, which has caused problems, that I think that if you take the policies of President Trump and what he did when he was in office versus what Harris has done for the last 4 years, there is no doubt that you would want President Trump. But the only reason most people don't want President Trump, they just don't like him. They hate him. They hate him so much they'd rather have a new, untested president and believe all of her policies. So I'm going to start off, first of all, with an email that I got the other day, and I'm going to do some critiquing on the way. Not going to give any names at all, but it starts off, the economy has never been better. Now think about that. You've gone to the gas station. Gas is so much higher than it was 4 years ago. Go to the grocery store. I had the grocery store yesterday, probably 15% of my cart was full, and it was $125. It is insane what we're paying for groceries. Now, if you think about how expensive gas is now, almost everything we do, whether if you go to a restaurant, how do you think they got their supplies? You look at your electric bill, your gas bill, everything is more expensive now. We're buying oil from basically Venezuela, that's an enemy of ours now. So anybody who says the economy is better now really needs to go have their head checked. Let me go on with this letter. The stock market is going through the roof in Biden's administration. We are doing so well financially. We have medical, dental things are great for everyone I know. So I have Medicare, and sometimes it takes me a month and a half to get into a doctor. And if you think that our medical is better now than it was, say, 4 years ago. I don't know what doctor or hospital you're going to. Look at the bills. Look, I went in the hospital for 2 days. It was $300,000. Excuse me, it was $30,000. Might as well have been $300,000. $30,000 for 2 days. This person's telling me how much better dental and hospital is. And I can go to the doc and get treated for whatever I need. No government involvement. No right-wing government telling me what procedures I can do and what I can't do. If you don't think the government has say in what we do, because first of all, it's the insurance companies, and they might as well be the administration. It is no better there. And Harris wants to actually, listen to this. She wants everybody to have government paid insurance, including illegals. Now, I'm going to call them illegals. You can call them whatever you want, just like Kamala. I'm going to call her whatever I want, because if you ever notice that most Democrats don't refer to President Trump as president, they just call him Trump. But if it comes to Obama, it's always President Obama, or President Biden, or Miss Vice President Harris. But they don't give President Trump any honor at all. He's Trump. We're going to get to that also because of the interview Harris did last night. But I want to just kind of finish up this letter because it's just such crap. She said, I wouldn't vote for Trump if he were running against Mickey Mouse. Here you got an administration that is letting 21 million illegals into our country. Now, the other night, she said that the numbers are down. What she did not tell you is the numbers crossing the border might be down, but now they're flying them over here. And those numbers aren't counted. They thought they could get that one by us. Can you imagine if you saw the interview last night that Harris did of her running this country? I actually would rather have Mickey Mouse running the country. She said, and the remarks about cat ladies without children. She says, Vance is more dangerous than Trump, if that's possible. And I've heard either none of them have spoken. They are huge danger to this country. It's funny how the Democrats refer to President Trump as being dangerous. She put him down so much last night on the Fox interview she did. The Fox interview she did that she was 15 minutes late to. I've been interviewing people, big, high-profile people for 15 years. I'm going to tell you something. When you've got a big interview, you always make sure you're on time. She was 15 minutes late to a national interview. And she got clobbered so bad last night. Her staff, it was supposed to be a 25-minute interview. Her staff last night were flailing their arms to stop the interview. That's how bad she did last night. And we'll get into that. I did an interview with Lara Trump, who's now head of the RNC, thank God. And she has done such an incredible job. And I'm going to play a interview I did with her. It's about a three and a half minute interview. Juan, let's put that up.
Some of America's top names in politics, and call in with your comments at 888-565-1470. And now, here's Steve-O.
You've got the Politically Right Show. I'm host Steve-O. Boy, do we have a great interview today. We have Mrs. Trump, that's Lara Trump, on with us today. And we are going to be talking about women's issues, and I have a few of my own. So sit back. We've got so many people from Washington, D.C. that are going to be coming on our show over the next 2 months. We actually got a call on this from the White House saying we would like for you to bring Lara on the show today. So sit back and enjoy the interview. The traveling you're doing, you're in Florida today.
I'm in Florida, yeah. I'm in North Carolina tomorrow. I was in Pennsylvania yesterday. So, yeah, we're traveling a lot.
Okay, so the last thing, and we're going to talk about women's issues with the president. You were on with me about maybe a year ago, and I've never been on a call that I felt so bad about. I'm from Texas. And when you say, bless your heart in Texas, if my mom falls, I'm going to say, oh, bless your heart. But on the East Coast, it's not nice to say. And I felt so bad after we hung up. And anyway, it's bothered me ever since. So
that is so funny.
I know.
Worry.
So listen, we've got to take Florida. What is this stuff?
Absolutely.
What is this stuff that women aren't going to be voting for President Trump?
Oh, well, that's totally ridiculous, by the way. They tried to say this in 2016, right? Because they thought that we'd all vote for Hillary Clinton because we're women, and why wouldn't we vote for someone of the same gender? Totally ridiculous. There's a bigger contingency of the silent majority now than 2016, absolutely guaranteed. I think we're going to see that on Election Day on November 3rd.
So, I was really worried for about 5 minutes. And after everything I've seen, I'm like, what am I worried about? But what I am worried about is these mail-in votes. I got to tell you, I am worried about those.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on right now, and I think the reality is that the Democrats have realized that it's going to be very hard, if not impossible, to beat a president like Donald Trump, who has such an incredible track record. Promises made and promises kept is not just a campaign slogan, it's actually what he has done. So now what have we seen? We've seen that they are trying, and they started this with 90 days to go in an election, to try and totally change the election system by mailing out to every person in the country millions of these mail-in ballots. You have no idea who is actually filling them out, who is sending them in. It's much different than absentee voting, where you have to request a ballot, where you have to have a signature or verification of the individual that actually filled that ballot out and who they are. We saw that in North Carolina, there was a cat that had been dead for 12 years named Cody Timms, who got a mail-in ballot. This is the problem with these things. Among many other issues, it's ripe for voter fraud. People could send in multiple mail-in ballots and go vote at a polling location. The possibilities are endless. So this is just trickery from the Democrats. It's a way to rip off the American people. And it's why the president has been very strongly advocating for absentee, but against the universal mail-in voting. It's very, very dangerous.
What are you going to tell mothers that have little kids about sending their kids to school?
Well, I happen to be one of those mothers.
Yes.
I have a son who's turning 3 this month, and he will be going back to school. He started last year a couple of days a week, and he's going 5 days a week this year, and he will be going back to school. And I am 100% on board and excited for him to go to school, because When you look at the statistics, and this is what people need to start doing, we need to stop listening to the fear-based media. They have tried to terrify every parent in this country. What you realize is that the seasonal flu is actually much more dangerous to children, and especially to young children, than COVID ever has been and ever will be. So we know that every year we don't shut down schools, we don't keep kids home because of the flu. Why would we now be doing it because of coronavirus? There is a safe way that children can go back to school, and we know how detrimental it would be if we kept them home. Whether you're talking about the education they're missing out on, whether you're talking about, especially for young children, the socialization aspect. That's how kids, especially young children, learn, is by socializing with their peers. We know that there are millions of children in this country whose only source of real nutrition in a day comes from the lunches that they get at school. Child abuse and learning deficiencies are often identified by teachers and staff at a school well before a parent would be able to identify those things. There are so many reasons specifically related to children that they should go back. But then you think about the fact that parents oftentimes cannot go back to work if their child is not in school. So when we're talking about a single parent, think about having to make that decision. Do I go to work so that I can feed and care for my family, or do I stay home because my kid has to do at-home learning? It's very, very difficult. The kids have to go back to school. The president has been pushing for that, and we know there's a safe way to get it done.
Okay, final question.
That was Lara Trump, the daughter-in-law of President Trump, who is now head of the RNC, has done such an incredible job. She almost was a regular on my show. We've had both the Trump sons on our show, and I just wanted to give you a little feel of who's running the RNC. There today, the big news is everybody knows about October 7th when Israel was attacked. 1,200 people were killed, Israelis. They weren't just killed. They weren't just murdered. Heads were decapitated, rape. One of the last hostages a couple months ago, a young kid that was held alive, and they knew that Israel had found this tunnel, and they went ahead and executed this kid. These are animals out here. Last night, Israel murdered the person who constructed the whole October 7th massacre. He was found last night. They got rid of his ass. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is last night, and I'm going to refer to this interview on Fox last night that Bret Baier did with Harris. Again, 15 minutes late for a national interview. It was almost like in your face, Fox. And the things that she said last night, she spent 80% of her answers were about Trump. Talk about owning real estate, Trump real estate in her head. You know, she should have been talking about if her policies are so great. She should have been talking about her policies and how she was going to make these policies happen. But no, everything went back to Trump. Do you know she called Trump last night, President Trump last night, deranged? He's dangerous. It sounded like the letter I just wrote you. He's dangerous. He's mental. One of the questions Baird asked her last night was, how long did it take you to discover that Biden had mental problems? She took it probably seemed like at least 3 minutes, but she took about 30 seconds before she could even answer. And she finally said, I never saw anything wrong with him. He's stable. But she can call President Trump deranged, dangerous. I saw Biden walk away from a speech he made, and it was obvious he had no idea where he was. I saw him go into a empty helicopter. How many times have his staff, had to steer him in the right direction? How many times did he refer to somebody by name who had been dead for 20 years? Why did he step down? Why did Nancy Pelosi tell him he's got to step down? But here she's calling President Trump dangerous and deranged. We don't even know who's running this country right now. You know, she did an interview, and there were so many lies in this interview. And what's so amazing is Democrats sit there and tell you, oh, Trump has told 50,000 lies. 50,000? I've asked people to name the 50,000 lies. See, a lot of Democrats aren't used to people coming back at them. People are afraid. So here she is always saying how President Trump lies about everything. Well, let's talk about Harris. Do you know she got up on her interview? Listen, I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard. And she said for the first time that our military is not active in a war zone. So Fox TV was really smart talking about fact check. Fox TV, while she was speaking, must have had cameras in Syria where our soldiers are. And the soldiers were going, what is she talking about? We're in a war zone right now. And actually, we're in 3 war zones right now. That was a huge lie. If you follow Harris and Biden, and especially Harris, she has put down the wall so many times. It's dangerous. It's bad. She had every name for the wall. Why? Because it was President Trump's idea. So now, all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, we're going to build the wall. I mean, I thought I was in La La Land when I heard her say that. Here's someone who's done nothing but put the wall down, and all of a sudden, she's going to build the wall. And Brent Baird asked her about that last night. And she said, well, you know, people change their minds. It was like, do you know that we've always called her the border czar? We have. And not one time did she ever correct anybody. So one time she went to El Paso, and in the area she went to was probably one of the least areas that illegals were coming in from. She went there one time in 3.5 years, but she was the border czar. Then she said, well, I was busy going around, traveling around the world, and try to see why these leaders, why the people were leaving their countries. And she said how she was traveling, meeting with all these heads of countries, and 3 days later, the Russian-Ukraine war broke out. Great job, Harris. Feel so protected. So there was another lie with the border wall. And what's really strange is she talked about last night Republicans that are backing her, high-ranking Republicans. And one of the names that really stuck out was General Milley. Remember that name? General Milley. And President Trump did choose him. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something. President Trump will tell you right now that a lot of people that steered him wrong were people that people in Washington said he should hire. Remember, President Trump's not a politician. So he did not know the right people to be on his staff at first. He sure does now. And he got rid of a lot of people. So this great General Milley that's now going to be for Harris, I bet you a lot of people don't remember that he called China and told them not to worry, we're not going to attack you. That phone call to China should have never happened. You never want your enemies knowing what you're doing. And when he did that, President Trump fired him. And there was a lot of other things that he did. Look who else she was bragging about last night that are now joining her team. You know, there was a senator from Wyoming by the name of Liz Cheney, who was supposedly a Republican. And she was head of the committee to go after President Trump because of January 6th. Now, the things that they said, that Trump said, has all been proven that they lied. You know, Nancy Pelosi finally came out about 2 months ago and said, January 6th was my fault, because 3 days before January 6th, President Trump went to Nancy Pelosi and said, we need about 10,000 soldiers in case there's a problem. And she turned it down. It was up to her to bring in the National Guard, and she turned it down. Does that sound like a president that wanted to cause turmoil on January 6th? What's so scary about this is President Trump made a speech. And towards the end of his speech, he said, "We want you to go over to the Capitol and do it peacefully." Listen, you can't change what he said. It's on video, it's on tape. He didn't say go over there and rush the Capitol, break into the Capitol. He said go over there peacefully. And you know, it's something I've never heard before. They said, well, why didn't you stop it? How do you, first of all, people, if you watch the riots that were going on over there, those people didn't have TVs with them. I didn't see anybody looking at their cell phone. How was he going to get word to them besides march over there peacefully? And people said, oh, I can't believe that he did that. And they took him before committee. And you know, they chose the committee. It should have been half Republican, half Democrat. But the Republicans, the names they put up, Liz Cheney didn't want. And she ended up with 2 Republicans, herself and another congressman out of Illinois who was voted out of office, just like she was voted out of office. And a lot of things that they said they had proof of are now missing. Wonder what happened to it. I tell you what, President Trump has been put through the mills. I don't know of anybody who could have endured what he's gone through. President Trump never even took a salary. He gave all the salary away. And people say all he cares about is money. President Trump is probably the first president to come out of Washington losing money. You look at Obama now, he's got 4 houses, including one in the Hamptons. He didn't lose any money. So last night, this interview that Harris did, folks, if you saw it, you know that almost every word out of her mouth was, well, Trump did this and Trump did this. And they would try to get her back on track. Well, Trump did this. Trump did this. She did not answer any of his questions. Do you know it had been 46 days since she had done an interview? If you don't realize this by now, there is a reason why she is not doing interviews. You know, people forget she ran for president. No one voted for her. She went through 3 primaries. She never got 1 vote. She didn't even make it past the 3rd primary, which is the beginning, and she had to drop out. She was known as the most unlikable senator. When you're the vice president, you normally, if there's a tie, you have the last vote. There were so many things that she voted on that put us in the position that we're in now. You know, I want to apologize. I'm skipping around a lot. It's just, there's so much. It just seems every day, this is a news person's paradise. There is so much going on. And I want to tell you about another lie that was told. I feel and I pray for the people in North Carolina, what they have been through. I'm sure you've seen the pictures of devastation. It's been almost 300 people have been killed. FEMA, who they take their marching orders from, do you know they were offering people $750? Now you think about it. I just went to the store last night and spent $150 on nothing. These people have been wiped out. Just think about it for a minute. $750 they're offering people? Well, first of all, that's bad enough at $750, but guess what? Not everybody got $750. There was people who applied for the $750, but were only given $300. There was many people who were turned down. Do you know why they were turned down? Because we're broke. Do you know why we're broke? Because we're funding all these illegals coming in. I just saw the other day, New York City alone, 130 hotels. Now, if you've never been to New York, there's hotels that are 50 and 60 stories high. 130 hotels that are completely filled with illegals. That means housing, food, transportation, doctor. You and me are paying for that. FEMA has no money. And the other day, Biden tried to say how wrong it is for President Trump. Of course, he didn't call him President Trump, he called him Trump, to spread rumors about people not getting their money. And here, people are being interviewed in North Carolina who've lost their houses, their cars. Some of them hadn't had water in 4 or 5 days. And they applied for the $750, but they didn't get it though. So here they're trying to make President Trump look like a liar. 2 days ago, the FBI came out. Please, I beg you to Google this. They came out and said, we made a mistake. Because one of the things that Harris said was, you look at crime, it's down. Well, you know what? All you got to do is look at New York and Chicago and LA, St. Louis. You would know crime's not down. But they're telling us that crime is down. FBI came out 2 days ago and said, we made a mistake. We didn't figure it right. Crime is up over 4%. How convenient. Crime is way up. It's funny because President Trump will talk about, and I'll just use Venezuela. He'll talk about Venezuela. The crime rate is down by 70%. 70%. The crime rate's down. Why is it down? Because Venezuela is opening up their prisons and getting rid of all the bad. And they're sending them over here. Do you know that 13,000 people who crossed the border illegally are wanted for major crimes like murder? 13,000. And 15,000 are wanted for rape. They're all over here now because of Harris and Biden. Nobody else. Can't blame this on Trump. It's because of Harris and Biden. We had a great thing going until they came in and they got rid of everything that President Trump put in. Of course, our crime rate's going to be up. Look what's happening over in Denver, Chicago. They try to hide that one too. Gangs are kicking people out of their apartments. They're not just kicking them out. They all have guns and rifles in their hands. And they're taking over towns. The town in Denver is Aurora. I used to live there. It was a nice city. Not anymore. It's gotten so bad that the gangs in Chicago that you hear about every week, 10, 15 people getting murdered, are afraid of these people who are coming in from Venezuela. They have let these people in. I think it's to get the vote. I really do. I think they're letting them in because we're already seeing that they're given driver's licenses and they're finding them on the voting rolls. And I think about this letter that I read at the beginning of the show. Things are a mess here. And if you heard Harris last night, her demeanor, her hate in her voice, her lies, you would be scared if this lady becomes president. And I want you to think about the things that I've told you today. You can go look up any of them. They've taken up a whole show. And, you want to do things that's going to help this country. And by the way, because I hear people, there's two things I mostly hear because I do a lot of panels at night. And they talk about 2025. And they blame that on President Trump. President Trump did not write 2025. It was one person at the Heritage. President Trump keeps saying, I don't want anything to do with 2025. I want nothing to do with it. And they keep saying, look what Trump has done. Listen, if they can't find something, they'll make up something. Because I don't care what anyone says, 4 years ago, we all had it pretty good. I know there was a pandemic, and I'm not going to talk much about that except for no one knew how to handle a pandemic. The one person who supposedly did, Dr. Fauci, we found out later on he lied so much to us. We found out that remember don't be within 6 feet of somebody? He finally admitted he made that up. They had no idea. We trusted Fauci, basically. And we found out he was in it for the almighty dollar. Here, Trump has been found guilty of rape. He wasn't ever found guilty of rape. I don't even know where you got that from. Do you know the lady who accused him? This happened 20 years ago. She couldn't even remember what day. And the dress that she was wearing, they did DNA on it. President Trump's DNA was not on there. I said to you, this man they've caused a lot of problems with this man that you or I probably could not have stood to assassinate. Actually, it's 3 assassinations. And he's still out there for us. I'm going to take, up until the election, I'm going to take one show a week to do a show like this, and we'll be letting you know through Facebook. And this is going to be my way of trying to let people know the truth out there, because I'm so sick and tired of the lies that are said about this man. Because the bottom line is he was a damn good president. And we were much better off 4 years ago than we are now. And I'm going to finish today about people who are saying, well, Harris is going to give new home buyers $25,000. Sure sounds good. First of all, you got to read the small print, because it's not everybody is going to get that. But most important, and this is what people, that's why she doesn't want to be interviewed. Where are you going to get the money for this? Sounds good. But where are you going to get the money? You can't just tax the rich that much. There's not that much to tax. So it sounds good. Will it happen? I will tell you right now, if she becomes president, it will not happen. And I'm going to leave today's show at that. But listen, I appreciate you tuning in. You might not have liked what I had to say, but when I talk to the company that does the production for this show of what I can say and what I can't say, the most important thing is be honest and don't say anything that people cannot find. Name of the show is Ask the Experts. We'll be back again with you next week. And I'm sorry my co-host Sophia couldn't make it today. And I want to thank our producer Juan for putting that interview together. Thanks so much, Juan. That'll do it for us today. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.